Two, one. Okay. Hi, everybody. My mouth seems to be moving too slowly when I see it on the screen. Hopefully that'll get started or get
That's
corrected.
what I always wanted to criticize you for, David. Your mouth just moves so slowly.
Okay. Um, well, thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jill Levitt and Mike Christensen, my dear colleagues, and happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers out there. This is our part one broadcast on intimacy training. Today will be on how to handle criticism. And our intimacy series, we're going to have a series of Sunday podcasts on intimacy training. There will be two dimensions to it. Part of it will be how to deepen loving relationships, how to deal with conflicts with loved ones, and how to give criticism, how to receive criticism, how to deepen a loving relationship with your spouse or someone you're dating or a family member or a friend. And there's a lot to learn there for sure. But then the other series of broadcasts will be on really hustling and dating, how to find somebody to love, how to play the dating game to win. And for that, we're going to have some wonderful people, tremendous experts in that area. Kyle Jones, who's a clinical psychology graduate student at Palo Alto University, and he'll be talking about dating, how to make the first move when you're dating someone, how to avoid chasing people, how to make people chase you. Angela Crum is a clinical psychologist, the head of the team certification program at Feeling Good Institute, an expert on flirting. So she'll be joining us as well for those broadcasts. And so let's see if we've got anybody yet. And while you're watching, there's Yehuda. Hi, Yehuda. TJ. Hi. Rand Smith. Hi, everybody. Hi, Lisa. Happy Mother's Day, Lisa. Thank you so much. Dipti Joshi. Hi. Happy Mother's Day from Dipti. Phil says loud and clear. And if you have some criticisms that you've received from a patient or a loved one or a family member, if you type the criticism in during the broadcast, we may be able to model how to respond. Oh, Mark Noble is here. Lovely to see the whole trio together again. Jill, happy Mother's Day. I'm looking forward to a magical session. I hope so. Susie Reeves, happy Mother's Day, Jill.
Thank you, guys. It's so kind, and happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. It's nice for people to be taking time on their Mother's Day to be joining in with us, right?
Yeah, and Bernie and Klaus and Samir. So it's great. Well, let's dive in any particular order. We have a lot of topics and things to present, and then we're going to model how to handle criticism from patients and how to handle criticism from loved ones. Mike or Jill, either of you, why don't you get us started on this incredibly exciting topic?
Well, it's so great to have Jill back with us. We definitely missed her last week, and getting a lot of love for Mother's Day already.
Thank you.
Jill, can I defer to you and let you take the reins?
Sure. Yeah, and I'll probably just talk for a minute, and then you guys can just jump in. I guess I think we have the next two sessions probably organized around how to respond to criticism when people are critical of you, because we all have to deal with that, probably at least on a weekly basis, right? Someone saying something somewhat critical of you. And then the other piece is how to share criticisms with other people. And I think, I know David and I have talked about this a lot, the key to actually having a real intimate relationship means being honest with people. And so if you have a good relationship with someone, you're going to receive criticism, and you're going to have to dole out some criticism too. And so we like to think of this as not, receiving criticism is not a bad thing. It's an opportunity to really listen and to connect and to show the other person that you really care about them. But it is also really, really hard, right? It's really hard in the heat of the moment when someone's being critical of you to kind of let down your guard and let down your defenses and see it as an opportunity to connect rather than to think of it as an opportunity to kind of put up your vest and protect yourself and your ego. So I guess we hope that today you'll learn some tools and techniques that we all, still are trying to practice and perfect ourselves in our own lives and with our patients.
And I think one of the foundations for any session on improving relationships, it has to do with motivation. When someone criticizes you, you've got two directions to go in. One is to argue and defend yourself, and that's what 90% of human beings do, 99% of the time. And there's a lot of benefits from that. It's fun to argue. You can blame the other person. You can think that you're right and they're wrong. And you don't have to become vulnerable. You don't have to take chances. And that's in a way how Western civilization, the basis of Western civilization, is to be right, to be strong, to be powerful, to defend yourself. Even our President Donald Trump says that you should never admit that you're wrong. You should never agree with the criticism. You should always argue, counterattack, and defend yourself. And a lot of the world does go that way. The other direction to go in is to and I want to the world through their eyes. And if you choose that route, there will be a bad and a good result. The bad thing is that you're going to die. It's going to be the death of your ego, because you're going to have to see the truth and what the other person is saying about you, and that's often painful and unflattering. On the good side, the moment you let your ego die, you let your defenses down and you humbly acknowledge the truth and what the person is saying, you'll be reborn, and you'll be close to the person, and they'll lower their guard. And the amazing thing is that they will then stop believing the criticism that they had of you. And I call this the law of opposites, something in my mouth from our hike. And the law of opposites, the law of opposites goes like this. If someone gives you a wrong criticism, like the patient might be saying, you're not helping, you don't care, or you don't care about me, all you care about is the money, you don't get me, or you're too old to be my therapist, you're too young to be my therapist. One of my colleagues had a patient said, you're a dickhead, this therapy sucks. Another had a teenager he was treating, and the teenager said, I hope you get suicidal someday and have to talk to someone just like you, or you're stupid, or, whatever you hear, whatever the criticism is. And there's a natural tendency to argue and defend yourself. And if you argue with a criticism that appears to be totally false, and you try to defend yourself, the moment you defend yourself, you'll prove that the criticism is actually valid, and the other person will believe it even more. And that's paradox number one. And let me say it one more time. If you defend yourself against a false criticism, you'll prove that criticism is actually valid. We'll demonstrate this in a moment. And the other side of the paradox is that if, in contrast, you genuinely and immediately agree with a preposterous criticism that cannot be true, and you instantly agree that it is true, and you show that it is true, the moment you agree with it, it won't be true anymore, and the other person will stop believing it. And that's the other side of the paradox.
And just to add one thing, David, is what you said. The second thing you said, people might be thinking, oh, so you're supposed to just kind of shine the other person on and go, oh yeah, you're right, I am a dickhead or something like that. And the thing is that when you actually have to see the truth in it, right? It seems preposterous, but in order to do this successfully and use disarming, which will show people, you actually have to do it authentically. you can't be just BSing and trying to use a technique to win the other person over, right?
Yeah, if it doesn't come from the heart, it's gonna fail. We have these 5 secrets of effective communication. Most of you know a little bit about them, but it's true of all 5 secrets. If it doesn't come from the heart, if you do it as a gimmick or manipulation, it will fail.
Yeah, when you do that, that's that ego that's coming back into the picture. You're actually using it as a defense mechanism in a subtle way by
Yeah.
gently putting the other person down. You're not really setting your ego aside.
Yeah.
And then it backfires.
Yes, and I would say of all the things I've learned or developed during my career, there are about 3 or 4 techniques that I'm the most proud of and that have been the hugest game changers for me in my clinical work and in my personal life as well. And the disarming technique has been totally mind-blowing for me. It's dramatically transformed my clinical work, and it's had a huge impact on my personal life and on my teaching, my career as well. But there's a lot of ways to screw up in using the disarming technique. And maybe we can point out the errors in it later on. Maybe we should just bring it to life a little bit and show you folks how these techniques work. Just a few new guests are joining us. Kathy Thorpe. Hi, Kathy. Great to hear from you. This is one of my favorite things. Thanks for putting this out there. Yes, it's one of my favorite things too. And Lisa, so glad you're enjoying this. Share this live video with friends so they can watch too. Yes, Lisa has said, and hi, Ron Alberg. Great to see you. And I think we're going to be seeing you next week too at the intensive that Jill and I are going to be doing. You're going to be there helping a lot of the online people, and we greatly appreciate that. And then Suzanne Cahill, Miley, hi, David from near Albany, New York. Hi, Susan. So let's start out. Let's give this an example. Let's say that I'm the patient, and this is a typical patient complaint. You're not helping me. Now, before we go on to show you skillful responders, the errors the therapist would make would be saying something. Oh, I think I can be helpful to you. I think I have been helpful, and look at how your scores on the depression test have improved, or something like that. And according to the law of opposites, when you defend yourself from a criticism, you prove it's right. And if you were to defend yourself against that statement, you're not helping, you see, you would prove that the patient is right, because in defending yourself is not helpful to them. They want you to see that the validity in what they're saying. So what's another way? How could we put the lie to this criticism, Jill or Mike, by agreeing with that? And you can use any of the other 5 secrets you want as well. But the main thing is we want to make sure we disarm this technique. Remember, if you agree with it, the moment you agree with it, it won't be true anymore. Let's see if that's really true.
So using the disarming technique, we might say something like, you're making a pretty important declaration here. You're saying that I'm not helping you. In fact, I'm not. Right now, we're not progressing like you really need, and I'm feeling a little disappointed that we're not moving along. And I imagine that's frustrating for you, because this hasn't been helpful.
That's not bad. I would want to do a little positive reframing too, and just say, and although it's painful to hear that, because I really like you, I really respect you, this conversation can help us get together on the same page. Tell me what it's been like for you. Maybe you're feeling disappointed or angry or discouraged, and tell me about the problems that I haven't been helping you with. I really want to hear about this. Does that add a good piece to it?
Yeah, I love the addition of the inquiry and then that positive reframe.
Right.
Yeah, so we should tell people that what Mike did was really good disarming. That's the kind of, you're right, I really haven't been helping you as much as you would like, or just I haven't been helping you, therapy hasn't been helpful. And Mike also did some I feel, right? He said, and I feel disappointed. I didn't actually write it all down word for word, but I think he shared I feel disappointed, and also said, and I can imagine that you would be feeling, frustrated, disappointed. I don't remember what other emotion words he used, but so Mike did at least 3 of those things, right? Disarming, right. I feel, and feeling empathy. And then David added some kind of stroking, I think, and positive reframing and inquiry.
Yeah, right. And the reason the positive reframing is important in a clinical context is because you say, oh, yes, I haven't been helping you. In fact, all my other patients have either committed suicide or dropped out of therapy. I really don't know what I'm doing. That's not a message the patient wants to hear. You can screw up on this disarming in many, many different ways, but you want to agree with it all the while maintaining professionalism and hope and to say you're absolutely right and it's hard to hear, but boy, let's talk about it, because we can use this session to really find out where I've been screwing up and begin to work together in the way you want and in the way I want. So that I
do think, David, a lot of people, though, a lot of therapists misunderstand the positive reframing as cheerleading. So, or like cheering the patient up, or like, I haven't been helping you, but I totally can, and I've got all these wonderful tools. And so I want to point out to the audience too, that essentially what you're saying, David, is even though this is hard to hear and probably hard for you to share, and we haven't been doing well, maybe this is a moment, that this will actually be an opportunity for us to kind of turn things around and get on the same page.
Yes.
Rather than a cheering up and a don't worry, I can help you.
Absolutely. And also you, Lisa Kelly, said, tell us more about how we can use these same skills in our personal lives. I sent out, I don't know if you got it, Lisa, or other people, but I sent out a blog yesterday, well ahead of time, that should have gone out to everybody, that we want to do 2 focuses, how to do this in our professional work, how to do it in our personal lives. And I also said that if you have a personal example or professional example, type it in here so we can see what the criticism is in your personal life that you want help with. Who was the person, your son, your wife, your husband, your lover, whatever, what did they say? Rand Smith made a comment, in the disarming technique, we should use others' techniques, like let's define terms. For example, if someone calls you a terrible therapist, and you use let's define terms in your head, I may be terrible in some things, but I'm not a terrible therapist. There's a difference in how you respond to your own criticisms versus how you respond to someone else's criticisms. And any hint of defending yourself with another person will cause it to go downhill. Let's try this one from Rand Smith. Suppose you have a really angry patient says, you're a terrible therapist. How could we respond to that skillfully using the disarming technique? Why don't you take a shot at this one, Jill?
Okay, so should I just do disarming, or you want me to try to just give it?
No, you can use any of the 5 secrets. It's just that disarming must be an ingredient. Yeah.
Okay, so say it to me one more time.
Well, what I was saying to you, you never listen. You make me repeat myself. And what I was saying was, you're a terrible therapist.
Okay, so David,
my last therapist couldn't help me, but at least she was nice.
Yeah. So ouch, that's, on the one hand, that's hard to hear. I can see that I'm guessing that you're feeling really, really angry with me and really disappointed. And I've probably hurt you in some way. I'm guessing that you're feeling really hurt and let down by me. And, you're saying that I've been asking you to repeat yourself and that I'm a terrible therapist. And I have to agree, I have been doing a terrible job. I'm clearly not doing a good job connecting with you, being helpful to you, listening well to you. And I feel really sad to know that. I really care about you as a patient, and I see that I've really been letting you down and screwing up, in a lot of ways. I'm also actually glad that you're being honest with me and sharing this with me now. And I really, really think it's important. And I'd like to understand more about kind of all the ways therapy hasn't been going well for you and what I've been missing. Could you tell me more about what this has been like for you?
I'd say that was great. The only additional tiny add-on would be, and I'd like to hear more about things I've done or said that might have hurt your feelings.
Sure.
And you could also say, I've kind of sensed that too. I've sensed this tension between the two of us, and I didn't know quite what was going on, and now I understand. But I thought that was a beautiful job. Now, why does the law of opposites work? You just agreed that you were a terrible therapist. How will the patient now stop believing it? How did you prove?
Yeah, I mean, I guess because I really listened and I agreed, and I made the patient feel understood in that moment and show that I care and that I want to hear more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I guess, would make me not terrible, right? Those are not awful things, basically. Yeah, I'm in the moment doing the kinds of things that I probably wasn't doing before.
Yeah. So let's keep demonstrating this, and then we'll switch over to the personal side. But that's a good question, Rand. And there's a bigger answer to your question, Rand Smith, that we probably don't have time to get into. But when you're working with your own negative thoughts, like I'm a terrible therapist, I'm a bad mother, I'm a loser, I should be better than I am, versus if somebody else is criticizing you, the techniques are like matter and antimatter. All the techniques that help you with your own negative thoughts will make a relationship problem worse.
Right. If someone says to you, you're a terrible therapist, and you say, well, I think that's overgeneralization.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Like that's a big no-no.
That's a label.
They'll get ticked off.
That's labeling.
So the paradox is when you have negative thoughts, you correct those distortions, and that will relieve you of your suffering. But when someone else hits you with the distortion, you buy into the distortion and see the truth in what they're saying, and then that eliminates the anger and conflict and hostility.
David, can I say one more thing?
No.
I'm wondering I think it was Rand, might be meaning though, as a therapist, as a person, we might be using those methods on ourselves, or we might need to use those methods on ourselves in order to respond with disarming. For example, David, you'll say in the book, Feeling Good Together, there's a couple, and maybe the wife says, I want you to be more honest or something, but whenever her husband is honest, she kind of falls apart, right? So like if I am not able to hear the criticism because I'm taking it so seriously, then I could use those methods on myself, right? Like if a patient says, you're a terrible therapist, I don't actually think I'm a horrible therapist across the board. In the moment, I think I've clearly been failing this patient. So I'm sort of using the methods he's talking about, be specific, let's define terms, maybe on myself in my head, right? I just don't use them sort of on the patient. And I'm not sure which he was meaning, but there is validity to thinking oftentimes we need to do individual methods to help ourselves to feel secure so that we can respond to criticism.
Yeah, when you're in a conflict with somebody, there's two dialogues going on at the same time, the external dialogue and then the inner chatter, the inner dialogue you're having with yourself, and you use different methods to respond to those two dialogues. Let's just keep this simple.
Keep going.
And so I have some criticisms, or someone could hit me with one too, but let's see. How about you're too old to be my therapist.
Should we hit you with that one, David?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of hate to offend you, but I've just been thinking lately, you are much too old to be my therapist.
Yeah, I've been sensing some tension between us too, and I wasn't quite clear what was going on. But I have to agree. I've really been missing the boat with you. I've also felt that I'm not connecting with you very well, and I can imagine maybe that you're feeling kind of irritated and disappointed. I'd love to hear some more about that. Maybe what are some of the problems that you think? I am an old fart. When I think that I'm 75, I can hardly believe it. I feel like I'm 15, and here I'm in this body of an old man. What would be some problems that you have that you maybe feel that I, an older person, couldn't help you with, or couldn't connect with it? This is incredibly important. And maybe when we talk about it today, by the end of the session, you'll decide that you really do want to work with me, and that's what I'm hoping will happen. But if you still feel that there's some issue that I'm not connecting with you on, well enough, I know some fantastic young therapists. I think I know some of the best young therapists in the country, to be honest with you, and I'd be more than happy to refer you to one of them. But let's talk about the errors that I've been making, and let's see what happens. How's that?
Great.
Why?
Well, you started out with, I wrote down a couple of things you said. I actually thought you picked up steam part way. My favorite part was when you did a real full disarming and said, I am kind of an old fart. And it was a little funny. At first you were saying, yeah, I've been sensing some tension too. I've been missing the boat with you. And I noticed as a patient, I still felt like that wasn't spot on, right?
Yeah.
But then when you said, and I guess I am kind of old, and I'm 75, and maybe, there's just stuff I'm not getting. When you really disarmed the heart of the criticism, which was saying you're old and you're not, that. In
fact, I could have made it stronger. I could have said, yeah, you're this awesome young person. Yeah. Thinking, wow.
Yeah.
He or she's going around to clubs and doing all these wild and fun things I used to do when I was young, and I'm not into those things anymore. Right. Can I really connect with you?
Yeah.
Can I really get you?
Yeah, even better. Yeah, that's great, right? The heart of the matter, is that there's this age differential, and for whatever reason, it's bugging me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. And then I thought you did a nice job with the other things too, and good inquiry at the end, right? Tell me about what are some of the things, and you were very kind of open hands about it too. I'd love to be able to work with you, and at the same time, and so let's talk about it. But if that's not what you want, I understand that too.
Yeah, that's great. How about?
Were there anything from the audience? Did anyone? I haven't been checking the comments box, but did anyone share any that they wanted us to do from the audience?
Let's see. You got a nice comment from Rand Smith. Phil, 75. Wow, just a pup. Yes, I feel like a pup. There's something here from Rob Wiley, RN. Sorry, become the problem and reflect it back. Buy into it. Yes, exactly. Is this the same as the agenda setting paradox? Be the problem. Yeah, there's paradox in agenda setting as well. In fact, paradox is woven all the way through team therapy, and I think paradox is a difficult thing to learn. It's very powerful once you get it, but it's hard to get it. Now, one of the ideas behind the disarming technique, and then if you like, we can go on to personal family examples. When I first developed the disarming technique, it took me 2 months to learn how to do it. And every day when I would go home on the train, I would write down some criticism I'd gotten from a patient or some imaginary criticism. And then I would work at it until I could find the truth in the statement. And after 2 months, it got to where I could pretty much disarm anything pretty darn easily. And in fact, we could just do a little Zen exercise and give each other absurd criticisms and see if we can agree with them. But eventually I got to the point where I said, there's no such thing as a false criticism. Why don't we just I'll criticize Jill. Jill can criticize Mike, and Mike can criticize David.
Cool.
And
Just what I wanted for Mother's Day. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Also, David, I have to say for a moment, I was confused. You said, let's do a little Zen exercise. And I thought you said, let's do a little Xanax. And I was thinking, what is he talking about?
Yeah, that's the best thing. If you're going to be criticized, take Xanax and it won't bother
I
you.
was so confused. But the Zen exercise, which you mean when we just kind of one criticism, one disarming. Is that what we're going to practice?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And we'll try to say something that the other person couldn't possibly agree with.
Okay.
Okay. Jill, I hate to say this on Mother's Day, but let's face the fact you're a terrible mother.
Stabbed me in the heart right where it hurts. You know, I say that because being a good mom means a lot to me, but I think you're totally right. I do make a lot of mistakes in my parenting. And, you know, as sad as it is for me, what you're saying has a lot of truth to it. And I'm wondering if you can tell me which part of being a bad mom you were noticing today.
Yeah, I just give that an A+.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, really fantastic. Okay. Time for you to die, Mike.
Go for it, Jill.
Oh, okay. Oh God. See, I hate being in this role. I'd rather receive the criticism. Okay.
And that's one of the
Below
things
the
that
belt,
happens.
Jill.
When we practice it, it is hard because we don't like criticizing other people, but
Right.
that's where the practice is so critical. Like
Right.
David says, you know, you have to work at it. It doesn't come naturally. It's not an easy thing. So
Try to hit Mike below the belt.
Oh, God, Mike, you know, what you just said was just so obvious. I mean, don't you have anything more interesting to say?
well, it kind of stings a little when I hear that. And the reason it stings is because it's actually completely true. It was pretty obvious what I was saying. And often I'm not that interesting. Love to hear more about the kinds of things that would be interesting to you, because I could really learn from you in this. That would be just awesome.
I give you a B+ on that. I thought you missed an important dimension. I thought what you did was good on the context, but you're not hearing the music. What is one emotion that no therapist in the United States or Canada has ever acknowledged?
Awesome. That's the anger, the frustration, the disappointment. Yeah, absolutely.
And if someone would say that to you, they'd have to be intensely enraged with you. And then if you don't acknowledge it, the anger will escalate. Try again.
Beautiful feedback, David. Thank you.
Try it again.
So I would say to you, oh God, Mike, what you just said was so obvious. I mean, don't you have anything interesting to say?
Yeah, you know, Jill, I on the one hand really value your feedback, and it was a little bit hard to hear because there's so much truth in what you're saying. You're right on the mark. It was very obvious, and I imagine you feeling pretty frustrated actually with me and kind of annoyed, even angry. And I'd love to hear more about kind of what it is that was kind of annoying and obvious, and what might be the things that would be interesting to you. That would be so helpful for me.
That's good, but I still think when you end up on interesting, you're avoiding the anger. You mention it and then you run away from it.
I did too. I did.
Should we hit you with it, David?
Yeah, let's
we
get
hit David
David's
with it?
response.
Go ahead, hit me with it.
Okay. So, yeah, you know, David, sometimes what you just said there was so obvious. I mean, don't you have anything interesting to say?
It's even worse than what you think. Being an old fart, I'm often repeating myself. And so what I'm saying is obvious and repetitious. But I have to agree with you. What I said right now was really pretty dopey. And I think I do that a lot. Yeah, you know, I'm picking up some real annoyance from you. And, you know, Jill, I just think the world of you. You're one of my favorite people. And but it sounds like you're kind of ticked off at me right now. Can you tell me some more about it? What you're saying seems pretty important. How's that?
That was great. I realize we're not doing the Zen exercise. We're not just disarming.
Well, this
but
is kind of a disarm. Well,
right,
yeah.
right. No, or just to say what you're doing is far more than just disarming and saying, you're
Yeah.
right, I can be kind of boring or uninteresting. But no, it was great. You did a really good job of acknowledging the anger and the frustration. And then I think really then the feedback you were giving Mike was around inquiry. You were saying rather than saying, what could I say that would be more interesting or what interests you, you could just say, sounds like you're really, kind of pissed and I've really been annoying you. And I would like to understand more about that. Can you tell me more about kind of how you're feeling and what you're thinking right now?
And then all of a sudden
Right.
you'll be in an interesting discussion.
Right.
You don't have to ask for an interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing that stuck out for me that you did, David, was you actually took disarming to the full level, whereas I think I was kind of partial disarm, not going full on.
Yeah, that's right. You weren't hearing the music behind the words. You were sticking with the words. And in my Tuesday group, we worked on this at the Tuesday Stanford training group. And this happened a lot, and Jill and I spoke about it afterwards. But we had people, we gave them typical criticisms. Like one of them was, you've never been living on the streets. This is like a therapy patient. You've never had to sell your body to get money to buy cocaine. How could you possibly understand me? And then the students who were trying to disarm this statement were saying things like, what you're saying is that I'm not living on the streets. I've never had to sell my body to get money to buy cocaine or crack, and that I'm not getting you, and that's true. I never have lived on the streets. Now, why does that fall flat? Why is that not true disarming?
Because they're not disarming. The criticism isn't literally you haven't lived on the streets. It's you're not getting me, you're not understanding me, right? You're not connecting with me. And so we can use thought empathy to, kind of repeat what the patient said, but we need to get the heart of it, right? The patient's saying, how could you possibly get me?
Yeah, right? Exactly. And the reason we don't do that, I guess a lot of therapists are tone deaf, can't hear music, can't hear the emotion that the patient is trying to express. And human beings in general can be like that, but also because it's painful. Because when you said, oh, Burns, you're too old to be my therapist, I started agreeing with it in a little general way before I got it. Yes, I am quite old. And I've worried about that in my teaching sometimes too.
Right.
Maybe all these young, fantastic people are going to feel like I'm some elderly fart that can't connect. Tell me about that. What kind of problems you're having that you feel maybe I couldn't understand. But you see, the reason we don't do the full disarm is because we don't want to see it, because it's threatening to us.
Right.
And that's why the disarming technique is really difficult. It's fraught with errors. One of the errors that therapists make would be to say, a patient criticizes, say, oh, you don't understand me, or you don't care about me. You don't care about me. You're just in it for the buck. And then the therapist might say, well, I can see how you might feel that way. Why is that a disarming error?
Yeah, that's a gentle put down. It's like saying there. If you knew better, like I know, it's like an arrogant kind of, I know what's going on, but you don't. And you just pushing them away then rather than aligning with them. Yeah.
But the real error here, the real problem is that the therapist ego gets in the way, or if it's a family, a loved one, your ego gets in the way. You don't want to hear what the person is saying to you. Let's switch over. Should we switch over to the family personal side of things? I just jotted a few typical criticisms you might hear from a loved one.
And what we could do too, David, is we could ask the audience, if the audience isn't giving us examples that they want us to use, we could even throw an example out and give people a chance to type in their text box, like what would be a good disarming. So we could model it, but maybe we could give people a chance to try too.
Hey, great thinking.
Yeah.
Here's some I wrote down, and if they're not good enough, we can come up with others. It was off the top of my head. You never listen. You're always late. You always have to be right. You always have to get your way. all you care about is yourself. And another one, you can't deal with feelings.
You're always interrupting me.
Yeah.
So which one? We have so many, and I'm sure we've all heard all of them. So which one should we pick?
You guys pick.
Mike, what should we do?
Oh, how about you always have to get your way?
You always have to get your way.
Yeah.
Right. Now, once again.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it.
Let's do you never listen. Hit me with that.
Oh, yeah. David, you never listen.
I'm listening right now. I heard exactly what you said, asshole.
Okay, that was what not to do. Now we're teasing, having fun.
Right. So what would be a disarming response to you never listen, or you always have to be right?
Let's let the audience take a minute to see, just picture someone in your life, your friend, your loved one, your spouse, your kids saying, you never listen.
Oh, also Ron has one for us. You're a crappy neighbor. I hate living next to you. We can do that one in a minute, but we'll start
Awesome.
out. Here's some more. Rob, you're not helping me. You don't like me.
Okay.
You yelled at me for no reason. There's a good one. So write down, if someone says you never listen, how could you disarm them? Marion asked a good question. Can I read it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe I'm asking this because I'm a total beginner, but sometimes it seems like one must fake it. What if I don't think what was said was so obvious? Of course, I'm open to think about it the way you did, but it would make me feel small. Well, you said two important things, and I can never answer this abstractly, only on the specific level. So if you can give a criticism that someone might give to you, a loved one or a patient, I'll show you how to disarm it. But we have to have a real example to bring it to life. And
in other words, if you're saying, Marion's saying, what do I do if I can't see the truth in what the other person's saying? And we're saying, give us an example of a time where someone criticized you and you couldn't see the truth. And then we can show you that you can always see the truth, right?
Yeah. You have to see the truth and come from the heart, or this won't work.
Yeah.
This is not about faking it or being fakey or playing games or using gimmicks. And if you can't see that what they said was so obvious, well, then get on the train like I did for 2 months and work at it. It was hard for me at first. I couldn't see how to agree with criticisms. I thought if anyone criticizes me, they've got to be nuts. And then after a while, I began to see that any criticism is true. But it does make you feel small. And I screw up a lot. I'm very assertive. I used to be very socially phobic and inhibited, and then I've kind of gone in the opposite direction. And I make mistakes all the time. And I feel small. I feel ashamed, and you have to be willing to have your ego die if you want to get close to people, because what they're telling you is always true in ultimate reality. It's just that you haven't allowed yourself to see it yet. And that's a really great question, Marianne. So let's see what people are going to...
So what's the disarming for you never listen? Is that what we're disarming? Yeah, so
like you never listen. Phil, you're right. Sometimes I get so preoccupied that I wasn't giving you full attention. Did I mention you look smoking hot? That's pretty good. What grade do we give Phil? Can we give you a grade, Phil?
Well,
he can't answer.
There's a bunch of others on here too.
No, you are right. Sometimes I get so preoccupied that I wasn't giving you full attention. How is that, do you think? Jill and Mike.
Great. Just that you're right. Sometimes I get so preoccupied that I wasn't giving you full attention. Yeah, just for a disarming, I think that's good.
Right. And then what would we add to that of the other 5 secrets?
You might add in some stroking if this is kind of a family member. You might say, and it's important to me to really be connecting with you and hearing, because I really love you. And I feel badly when I dismiss you because I've been distracted. It's not fair to you.
Right.
Tell me more.
Yeah. Now I have another question for you, Mike. Is there any emotion that no therapist in the United States or Canada has ever acknowledged?
Yeah, let's see. What would that? Well, that would be the anger
Someone
part.
says, yeah. Is that worth mentioning when someone says you never listen?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I imagine you're feeling pretty annoyed with me, pretty frustrated, even pissed off. Like when people aren't listening to me, it makes me very angry. And you'd never be right to be angry when I've been distracted with these other things, and that's hard for me because I do care about you. You're important to me.
That sounds great. And I think what I would say is a lot of times I do that. I'm kind of like the cat sometimes. I get so much into my own world. I don't listen. I don't hear you. And when you point that out to me, I feel ashamed because you're right. And I do really love you and care about you. And, you know, it hurts to hear this, but I imagine you've been feeling hurt and kind of pissed off at me. Can you tell me more about that? This is so important. How's that?
Yeah, A+, really connecting at that deeper level.
And a lot of people have good, I'm looking, it looks like we've got Yehuda said, gee, I feel awkward right now because I realize that many times I do not listen and I feel bad and sad about it. So
Yeah.
that's a good start, right? We've also got Bernie said, you're right. I've been impolite, interrupting you, and you seem angry about it. And I can't blame you. Again, a good start, right? With some disarming and some feeling empathy.
Yeah, and then we've got a wonderfully wise and phenomenally important comment, the most important comment in the last 6 months from Haysi Tikan. I've sold at least 1,000 of your books to Kurdish people. Thank you. I really appreciate that very much. I didn't know it was available in Kurdish, but that's great to hear.
Here's a good criticism here. You don't care about me.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's see how you guys are going to handle that one.
From Marion.
Yeah, and then this could be in a personal context or in a therapy context. Let's put it in the personal context. Okay.
Because often you'll hear this one from teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't really care about me, Jill.
Did you want me to respond? Yes?
No, you can just keep ignoring me the way you've been doing.
No, I didn't know if we were giving our audience a chance to respond first.
Let's give the audience. Let's give the audience a chance. You're right. You got a much better idea.
I was going to give them a minute to try. So imagine a loved one or a friend or student or whatever, or patient if you want to, says, you don't care about me.
Yeah, and then we've got a great one from Dipti to do next, too. We're getting great ones here. Dipti's got a cool one. I know you will not accept me, so I don't want to talk. That would be like from a teenager. That's a beautiful one, but we'll do this. You don't care about me. So write down your responses, folks. Kathy, I'm like you too. I jump in too much. So are people done?
I see one response. It looks like Marion said, I could say that I see that the other person feels that way, but I do care.
And that would be a typical disarming response error.
Right.
I can see you feel that way, but I do care, so you're wrong. Why will that prove that you don't care?
Well, I would like I would like you to imagine what it feels like if you said to someone, you don't care about me. And then they said, I could see how you might think that or feel that way, but I really do care about you. Doesn't that make you more angry? I mean, I would be like, screw you, right? Because you just basically said, oh, they're there. Like, I see how in your distorted mind you think that, but I really do. You know, it's totally defending yourself. It's a put down.
It's a
kind of like a brush off, and when you brush somebody off, that's very uncaring.
Right.
You're not actually caring about them when you brush them off.
And it's great, Marion, that you said that, because that's the kind of thing that people do all the time, thinking they're disarming, and they're not. They're just being mean. And you're even disguising your meanness by putting it in kind of nice language. I do care. Let's model the disarming technique. I just feel like you don't care about me. You want to try, Mike?
Sure, I'll give it a go, and then we can get some feedback here. It's hard for me to hear that you're saying that I don't care about you, and I feel sad and kind of badly that there's been things that I have been doing that have been uncaring, and I imagine you're feeling hurt and frustrated and probably even angry at me, pissed off maybe, and that actually would seem completely justified based on this dynamic that's going on between us. I'd love to hear more from you about how you're experiencing what's happening here, because it's painful for me when we're not connecting, because there's this relationship is so valuable to me. I'd hate to damage it any more than I am right now, and you've pointed out that I have been damaging it.
Well, this is great because we're making little errors and doing partial good stuff. You want to critique that one, Jill?
Yeah, I'd love to get some feedback.
Write down enough.
I feel sad, and I can see that you're angry, and you're justified in feeling that way. And let's hear some more about it. We are not connecting. This is so valuable.
There was, but I want to give more general feedback than specific. Although I'm happy to give specific too. There was a feeling about it that didn't feel kind of authentic and connected. It felt like a lot of words strung together, which sometimes happens when we're trying to hit all the 5 secrets too, and sometimes happens in role plays because like you're not in the midst of a real relationship, but. Yeah, I guess I just would have liked to have heard, shit, I really haven't been caring. I've been acting like a jerk, and I haven't been making you feel cared about, and I'm guessing that you're feeling really hurt and neglected or, just disappointed, devastated, angry with me. And you deserve better than that, and so anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to take over and do a role play, but I was looking there, it wasn't connected and warm and loving enough.
Right. It was, you were again, afraid of what the patient was saying. It was the same error that I made. You weren't owning it. Whereas what you said, Jill, right now, you owned it. You're right. I've been kind of ticked off at you lately, and I've been treating you badly. And not in a loving way, and I feel hurt and ashamed to hear that, because I have to agree with you. Yeah, I've been kind of mad at you. I think you've been kind of mad at me, and it's no fun, because I love you so much. It makes it twice as painful when I find out I've been acting kind of mean and unloving and irritable and putting you down. Can you let's talk about it. This is so important. It's painful, but this can bring us closer together. Tell me more. You probably have more criticisms of me that are also valid. I want to hear them. How's that?
Yeah, love that.
Right.
Love that. And once again, that buying in 100% to the disarm.
Yeah.
That's
and why do you think, Mike, you didn't buy in to 100%? Because all I was telling you is that you don't care about me. You're an unloving human being.
That's
Yeah,
it.
because there's a part of me that want to think, well, no, actually, I'm kind of caring, right? And that ego snuck in. It's seductive how it takes us down,
isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it? And then there's no 100% guarantees in the world. But if you do this with humility and genuineness, that's the message the person wants to hear. And when we keep tiptoeing around things and rationalizing and talking in psychobabble, it just increases the irritation and the distance. But this is like exposure therapy in a way, because you have to confront the monster you fear the most. In this case, the monster, the person is telling you about your own badness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you have to accept it and experience the death of your ego. You have to die. And if you do, you'll be instantly born. That's the spiritual death and rebirth, but nobody wants to die.
And your point about exposure is true too, in that, in a way, the more, I really do believe the more that we practice this, whether it's as a therapist in drills or in your head or while you're driving in your car or just every day, day in and day out, the less it stings, actually, right? I mean, we have to be able to find the words, but I think it's also that we have to be able to sort of calm our own self in the moment to be able to not defend, And actually, Mark Noble made a comment, right? Mark is in neuroscience, right? And he wrote, I just want to raise a thought based on the neuroscience of these interactions. In fight or flight situations, including being attacked verbally, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in and takes a long time to calm down. I'm thinking in the traditional fight or flight response, the sympathetic nervous system is still buzzing and ready to strike the next blow, kind of like it would be really normal to just respond and fight back, right? But instead, what we're trying to do is something different, taking time to apply the 5 secrets. And he's saying maybe gives you a buffer that, I didn't read the rest of it, but that allows, I think his comment got cut off, but.
You can get calmed down.
Yeah.
And then very cool. Then you can use Team CBT in concert with your nervous system. But Mark, you're very right. What we're fighting against here is human nature. This defensive response is programmed into us at a biological level, and that's the thing you have to overcome if you're to learn the disarming techniques, the 5 secrets, and learn to transform these hostile situations into loving ones. And also, you have to really want to get close to that person, and you may not want to. You may want to hurt that person.
Mm-hmm.
People don't admit it, but all human beings like to get back, like to get revenge, like to defend yourself and counterattack, and that's biologically, woven into our nervous system. So probably early survival, and that's something you have to overcome. But you really have to want intimacy greater than you want the rewards of battle. Ron Alberg said, gee, you're right. I must not really care about you. At least I haven't demonstrated it, and I imagine you must be angry with me. What grade do we give Ron?
I think that's great.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kathy Thorpe says, this is important and painful for me to hear. Tell me more about what I'm doing wrong. Well, Kathy, you can't talk. Maybe we'll change our broadcasting system where we can have conversations with everyone where you can actually talk. But Mike, did you hear Kathy's response?
This is important and painful for me to hear. Tell me more about what I'm doing wrong, that part.
Yeah. And now, is there one emotion that no therapist in the United States or Canada has mentioned?
Yeah, that's the anger. And this is exactly what we're hoping for when we do the practice. We're actually hoping that we make our errors so that we can learn from them. I've made a number of errors today, and I've realized, I've kind of gotten in a little bit of a rut with that one. And it's like, I got to get back and practice this one again, because it doesn't come naturally, and it needs regular practice.
Yeah.
So I've done that with my kids at times.
Kathy, you're close, but you're not acknowledging the other person's hurt or anger there. You said it's important and painful for me to hear. Tell me more about what I'm doing wrong. So you're having I feel statements, and you're having inquiry, but not feeling empathy, and not the disarming technique. And you could say it's painful for me to hear how that I've been coming across in an uncaring way, and I can imagine how hurt and angry you feel. And tell you the truth, it's embarrassing and shameful, but I think you're right. I've been kind of angry with you, and I've been treating you badly, and there's tension between the two of us, and it hurts me too. It wouldn't hurt so much if I didn't love you so much. And let's talk about it. Tell me the things I've said or done that have hurt your feelings, and tell me how hurt and angry you're feeling. How is that?
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So it's close, kind of, Kathy, but going a little further sum here. Oh, I feel
David,
terrible.
sorry. I just noticed the time, and I don't want to cut you off, but I
yeah.
just noticed that we're almost out of time. And also, I'll let you jump back in, but maybe I'll just say one quick thing, which is if people are kind of excited about these methods, also I realized we will be teaching them on our workshop a week from today, and people, therapists can join us actually online. They can live stream. Mike, David, and I are doing a one-day workshop on May 20th, and you can register for the workshop if you want to join us online at feelinggoodinstitute.com/training.
That's www.feelinggoodinstitute, one word, .com/training, and we're sold out for the live people who attend live in Palo Alto, but we still have plenty of spots available online. I'm so excited to be teaching with you, Jill, and with you, Mike. I think it's going to be just a dynamite day.
Yeah.
So hope you can join us next week, and thank you so much for joining us today. Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Lisa, is there anything we should be doing here at the end? Please give your feedback directly to David about today's broadcast so we can improve it. Yeah, tell us what you like, what you don't like. We're going to have more of these intimacy trainings. And then there's more you say they can find at feelinggood.com. Of course, we've got the Feeling Good podcast every morning, tons of free resources. But thank you, Lisa. You're kind of our mother. And Lisa Kelly has done so much to help promote our cause and to support us in our marketing efforts. This very show was Lisa's idea, along with many other cool things. So everybody have a great day. What?
One final plug, David. If you really want to learn these, deeply, pick up David's book, Feeling Good Together. Go on the podcast and listen to him, where he explains in detail the background behind it and how it works, and that's just a tremendous resource. So Feeling Good Together.
That's for these ones on deepening intimacy. Your textbook is Feeling Good Together. But if you're hustling, if you're alone and don't have anybody to have conflicts with and want to get people chasing after you in unlimited numbers, those are the other broadcasts that we'll be having. And your textbook for that one is my little book, Intimate Connections.
Awesome.
Okay, have a great day.
Great fun, everyone. Happy Mother's Day.
Bye-bye. Bye, David. Bye.